Hey everyone! So in this video I want to talk about the difference between trying to change our thoughts and changing our relationship with our thoughts. Now this might seem like a subtle difference, but for me in my recovery certainly it was really big because when I would when I would try and change or manipulate or maybe argue against or justify certain eating disorder related thoughts, I found it really challenging. It would it wouldn't stick, if that makes sense. It's like I would kind of spend so much energy and time even, getting in there with all those thoughts in my mind and, picking certain ones out and fighting against them, or like I said, trying to change them or manipulate them into something else. But it didn't seem to make a lasting difference. And that's not to say, for some people that might be a helpful thing to do. But what I found is when we get in there with the content of our thoughts, I find that it gives them power. So it's like when we feel that we have to argue against and justify and all those things against certain thoughts, by doing that, it's giving those thoughts importance. It's implying that they are true, maybe, or that they actually need to be argued against because they seem so, maybe so solid or so important or powerful. So when I would argue against them, it's like I felt like I was fighting a losing battle almost. Like the eating disorder would always have comebacks. It would have this, almost like infinite filing cabinet of excuses and responses about how actually, what it was saying was true. So, and like doing that, I found to be quite tiring. Like it took a lot of energy, and I found it frustrating because it wouldn't stick, and it just felt like I was constantly trying to fight against this. Whereas when we look at it a different way, and it kind of feels to me almost looking at it, taking a 180-degree view on it, and we look at changing our relationship with thoughts as a whole, then things can really start to look and feel quite different to that kind of first approach. So when I started to see this and start to actually understand, well, what does it actually mean to change our relationship with our thoughts, everything just started to feel a lot easier. And so many of my kind of rules and beliefs and those thoughts that play on loop, like my greatest hits record almost, that would just keep going round and around, that they started to fall away, or they started to feel so much less powerful and important, and like they had a grip over me. So when I talk about changing our relationship with our thoughts, what I mean is starting to see our thoughts for what they are. And if you watch our videos a lot, then you'll have heard me talk about this quite a bit. But I think repetition is important. So when we start to see that, all thoughts are made of the same stuff, all thoughts are neutral by default, and but what I mean by that is that these thoughts might come through our mind, and it's us as individuals who are all unique and all have our own different experiences and beliefs and all of that. We then attach meaning to those thoughts. We make them, positive or negative or anything in between. But actually, when we almost kind of strip all of that back, actually by default, thoughts are neutral. So when I started to see that, it was amazing, because so much of the power that I had inadvertently been giving to certain thoughts and beliefs, again, you know, totally unconsciously, started to kind of fall away, because it's like, well, how can they be, you know, powerful by default? Why actually should I be giving them so much attention? And you know, as humans, we do so much of this without even being conscious. And you know, I certainly did that for a very, very long time. You know, I'd have these thoughts in my head and I'd act on them, or I would respond in certain ways because they would play on my insecurities maybe, or they sounded loud and scary and threatening, and you know, all of that stuff that we as humans don't really like. We want to try and avoid that, those sort of feelings. We want to try and fix it or appease it in some sort of way. But it's almost like when we flick on the light switch and actually see that actually maybe it's not as solid as we thought. Actually, maybe these, you know, threats that we're getting from our minds, or all these what ifs that I used to have, you know, what if that happens, or if you do that, then what if this happens? And so again, when we kind of strip it back and we see fundamentally what they're made of, then it's like we are then back in the driving seat. I certainly felt for such a long time that I was at the mercy of my thoughts. So when I started to change my relationship with them and see them for what they are, what they're made of, that by their very nature they come and go on their own, then all of that kind of discomfort, I guess, that came with it started to feel different. So maybe just reflect on that, on those two different ways of looking at it, you know, trying to change our thoughts, or changing our relationship with them. So sit with that and see how that feels, and just notice what comes up for you. And I will see you in the next video.